Oh, it's short but good.
Hey, literally, that literally describes me as a 5'5" Latino. I'm short and good.
Geez, look at that place. What happened there?
Listen, I'm above average.
My brothers and I all joke because we watching the video and we're like, oh, that's so mom.
First of all, Leo, fuck the budgets because you cannot put a price tag on heart, soul, and it factor.
I think it's kind of clear what the work is doing here, right?
No, shut up. That was, oh my gosh, that was actually one of my closing questions for you today.
What's your damage, Heather?
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Can you hear me all good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, it's so clear as well. Looks good.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
How's your
Um,
morning been?
it's been good. It's been well. I got some sleep. I went on a run and I made some hard-boiled eggs.
Very cool. Totally random because I was just talking about this with someone about hard-boiled eggs, okay? If
Yeah.
you take a spoon and you take one of the ends and just slightly tap until you hear a little pop, and
Yeah.
then you boil them, then take them out, give them a quick little ice bath, no longer than like 2 seconds, they peel off like so easily.
Oh,
So,
really? Before you put them in the ice? Because I always do crack it after I put it in the ice.
oh no, you crack it before you even boil it. So while it's raw.
Oh, that's funny because one of them actually, I did that on accident and it actually came out really easily.
Now we know the secrets to hard-boiled eggs, I guess.
That's great. Wow, I love that. Yeah, my brother and I have been really struggling with those.
I'll send you a little video off the record and I'll show you how I do it. And I swear I was the worst at making hard-boiled eggs, but I'm like a master at it now. So I'll send you a video.
We could use all the help that we can get.
Amazing. Are you born and raised in LA?
Yeah, I was born in LA. I grew up in Santa Monica mostly. I went to Santa Monica High and then I went to UCLA and I've just stayed in LA since.
Very cool. I'm
Yeah.
originally from California myself. I'm from Pasadena, Highland Park area.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Pasadena in high school and stuff. And I still love Pasadena because I love the Huntington Garden is one of my favorite places to go.
Do you see yourself being in LA forever? Is that like where your permanent spot is, you think?
Probably, I think just because it has a combination of so many different things. I think there's a lot accessibility wise, in terms of art, but there's also space. Like it's possible to have some space, for a garden or a studio or something. And so, yeah, I love a lot of things about it, and I love how many options there are in LA. So I think even though I would like to travel some more and maybe be in some places for a little longer, I think I'll always have something in LA, a heart in LA.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for making the time today. I've been like super anxious to like get to chat with you because immediately when I saw your look, I was like, I don't think I know anyone who can look hot in a fucking wedding gown, in a suit, and in FX makeup, okay?
Oh, that's a great compliment. Thank you.
Of course. Do you approve all of your looks for like the shoots and everything? Is that all you 100%?
The looks, yes, all of that is me. I'm the art director for all of the stuff. So I put the looks to I storyboard it. I mean, I have a my friend Joaquin, who's the one my video partner who I've worked on all those videos with. We met at school. He really gets me and we work really well together. But yeah, all of those things, all of those videos start as my ideas and pitches and then we kind of develop them together. So all the styling and the art directing is we're super small budget. We kind of cowboy it. So everyone's doing like a few different things. Like, I'm doing I'm doing wardrobe, makeup, styling, production. My partner, Lauren is her name, and she's does the on-set photography and has been helping with PA stuff. And then Joaquin's partner, Cindy, who's a good friend too, also is like the grip and stuff. So it's like a very intimate kind of family friend affair. My brother will help. My mom, she was also in the damage drop off video. She's the woman with the curlers in her hair.
No, shut up. That was, oh my gosh, that was actually one of my closing questions for you today. Who was the woman in the rollers?
That's my mom. That's my mother. And that's her wedding dress actually that I'm wearing in that scene later on. I'm wearing both of combining the outfits from her first wedding with my biological father and her second wedding with my stepfather.
Super genius. I am obsessed with all of it. And I noticed on Instagram you said something about making some of your own DIY outfits. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Oh yeah. definitely. The pants for Vampire on that cover with the leather patchwork, those I've been working on those for like a year and a half, and all of that is pretty much hand stitched. It started with a pair of leather fetish pants I got like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and then I started just over time like slowly modifying, cutting them. You know, they'd be too tight in one place, so I'd be putting them on. It'd be too tight in one place, so I'd just take an X-Acto and just make sure I don't slice open myself, and I open it up, and then I'd put fabric in there and I'd stitch it onto my body.
So sick. I am so obsessed with your look, with everything. I love fashion and I love DIYing my own stuff. So I love everything that I was watching. So
Oh, that's
that
great.
prompted me to ask you real quick. This is how we're going to kick off the first official question of the interview is if Leo were to start a fashion brand today and he was launching it, what is that fashion house going to be called?
What would the fashion house be called? Geez, that's a good question. Really challenged me today. When I'm making the clothes and modifying them, it's always such a personal process because I'm thinking of each one is kind of like it's like mutated just for me. You know what I mean? I really love artwork because I have a lot of designs and stuff for different merchandise, shirts and stuff that I've made. In fact, like this is some text I made, you know, for Vampire, you rule the night forever. And I did that with ink. And I had that on some screen prints that I made a while ago. And so I think it'd be probably just be like Leo Lauren.
Well, I mean, Leah Lauren is such a badass name already. I mean, you've got
Sure.
like, for the people who do like, gender neutral type of vibe, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like a contrast between one and the other. It's so sick.
Oh, thanks. That was my chosen name for this project. I wanted something that was give me freedom for the yin and the yang.
Very cool. Well, I'm obsessed with it. I love all of it. I love the look. I love the style. And we'll talk about music here in a little bit. But since we were already kind of talking about me seeing this on Instagram about you doing your own clothing and stuff, there was a
Yeah.
comment I came across on your Instagram, and I'm going to read it to you real quick. You responded to a comment. It was a very silly comment, but it said, never apologize for who you are. Is this something that you feel personally at some point in your life you did do?
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I think that the whole me making the name and that idea of Leo Lauren for myself to be was that whole idea of a space like that where I didn't have to apologize for, you know, the things that make me happy that I'm most ashamed about. And so yeah, that's definitely I think with a lot of this project and my songwriting, my practice, I think shame is a really big theme through a lot of it, and I think that that's what a lot of the purpose of like making the songs and making the work is something that it's a space or it's something that I can listen to where I can have a really positive experience with some things that I might usually feel really embarrassed about.
Do you feel like, in regards to apologizing for who you are, at times when you weren't able to truly just be authentically yourself, do you think that there's a commonology, if that's even a word, if it's common in between your art with music and digital art and style? Like, this is your way of expressing the
Yeah.
times that you weren't able because you were ashamed of who you were, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, that's all in the work is always that. And I think it took me a while to realize that really clearly. But I remember when I was in school and I was in a painting class and I was a painter before I was a musician or anything. And I was making these huge paintings that had a lot of glitter on them. And there was like vampires and stuff in the paintings, very like glam goth before I even really knew that that's what I was about. I remember I was standing next to one of my paintings for a critique and it wasn't even conscious like really, but that I was also wearing like a baby blue like glitter t-shirt, like one of the t-shirts where the whole t-shirt is like glittery,
Yeah.
the material. And I was standing next to my with a crit, and my teacher Larry Pittman is a paint he's a really great painter. He was like, well, can you see, because he always likes to talk about stuff like the work is doing this, the work is doing that. He's like, well, I think it's kind of clear what the work is doing here, right? I was like, nah, I don't really know, and he was basically helping me realize is that the work is really like, and my work and has always been like this. I think it's a vehicle for me to transform into something. The art is always, it's a place, it's a vehicle, it's a way for me to become something. Anyone experiencing it to become into an experience, you know. So definitely, the art is always doing something for me like that. You know, I make a song that I really want to listen to, and that I listen back to, and like it makes me feel good in my body, and it's an experience. The content might be shameful or difficult, but I try and make it work in a way where it's really enjoyable and it's fun and it's cathartic to experience.
No, I love that so much, and I can relate to it because even just like in the choreography side of things, so I'm a retired choreographer now, but that was definitely something I used to tell a lot of people. The role-playing aspect of being a choreographer and wearing all those different hats was
Mhm.
what really made things so exciting for me. I could
Yeah.
go and be feminine, I can go and be hood, I can go be masculine. I was able to really wear whatever hat I wanted to, and that was so hot to me. I was like, I love that I get to show up and I could just be really whichever one I want to be. And it's so weird to be like, oh, that's so hot, but it really did make me feel so good about myself. So I love that.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. That's a great experience. And you're right. It does. It does feel good. It feels really good. It does feel hot. And it feels good. And it feels really fun. I think that's like really the best part. Yeah.
No, and I think that just even like, having adult conversation real quick, I do think that it also makes us really good lovers because we're able to like, explore and adapt with our partners in a way that comes with security. And I think that's a lot, that the
Yeah.
biggest thing that comes with exploring your artistry and your creativity, you're betting on yourself. And the thing you build by doing so is you
Yeah.
build confidence and security, and that's sexy as fuck.
That's true. That's true. And you also get you get comfortable exposing yourself in a way you might be afraid to be. And I feel like that's really what, especially physical intimacy, at least my experience is like really a lot of it comes down to. And has been like a lot of that when you talk about feeling free in an experience is really like not being afraid and feeling like you can slip into a role or a different way of being or attitude and not feel like you're going to be ashamed or alienated and stuff. That's definitely like opens the doors.
And I love that you used the word free because I'm going to read to you something I skipped over in my notes when we got, kind of got off a little bit off topic. I wrote, I think the message of breaking free in his style, his image alone is absolutely incredible. So I love that.
Sharing, that's really great.
Of course, when it comes to Lovesick, it was described as the yearning soundtrack to a love island with no love in sight. If
Sure.
Leo were to name that love island, that's his love island that's described, what is that love island called?
Oh, it's called Paradise Goth.
Love that. That was quick.
That's the island that exists in my in my mind.
I love that. I think that's what's so fascinating about what you're doing. And of course, I'm going to geek out about your music a little bit later as well. But I love the imagery that comes with it. And I was so surprised at how beautiful even your digital art was, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I love that. I love that. Paradise Goth. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. It's like Paradise Lost, but Paradise Goth.
So sick. I love it. Well, if you ever create a digital or a VR type of, island for it, hit me up. I want to take a look.
Sure. No, that'll be definitely. I'm sure that'll happen.
Which I love the song, by the way. And that song, wait, what?
Oh, it's like all these things just take money, right?
Everything.
Yeah, and blood.
I was literally just going on a rant about this yesterday. So I'm working on a project out in LA in the end of January. And just yesterday, I was venting about how, like, everything, no matter what solution I come up for the project, it
Yeah.
requires fucking money. I'm like, God.
Yeah, sometimes less money than others, and that's the best case situation, I guess, was when you can make the magic happen still.
Exactly. Well, I love the song Lovesick, by the way. Being able to go onto your YouTube and reading along with the song, it hits differently. I don't know if anyone's told you this before. It's a good song, but when you read along with the lyrics, it hits completely differently.
The moment I step out my door, everything aches all over. The moment that you're not here for, every breath's such a chore to take. You make or break my heart.
great to hear.
No, for sure. In regards to reading along to some of your lyrics, there was a lyric in there that I discovered that I didn't catch on the first couple of times of listening to Lovesick. So, in honor of the lyric in there talking about breathing is a chore, on record, Leo, give me the biggest breath you've ever taken on camera before, and I'll go after you.
The biggest breath I've ever taken on camera was honestly on camera because I've been kind of shy, you know. So probably shooting in the wedding dress where I dressed up as my mother in the damaged drop off video. That was really probably the biggest breath. I had to breathe a lot to get there into that space. And it was really intimate. It was just me and my partner Lauren and Joaquin and his partner Cindy in my kitchen. It was just us four. I had to take some big breaths to get to that place and of accessing that like emotionally and stuff. So that's probably on camera one of the big. Well, another big breath was for when I was shooting something for my next song actually that's coming out after this, which is called Super Normal. Cat actually had to hold my breath underwater for a really long time, and that's just practically a big breath.
Super sick. Well, on record today, Leo,
Yeah.
give us a really big breath of just relief. Let out whatever it is you need to let out today. Shake it off. Don't be shy. Go for it. Beautiful. I'll go next just so that you don't feel like you're alone in this.
Oh, it's short but good.
Hey, literally, that literally describes me as a 5'5" Latino. I'm short and good.
Nice.
I also loved the make or break part of this song. I
Mm,
want to talk about the power we give when we're the most vulnerable. For you, Leo, when it comes to writing,
yeah.
whenever you put something on paper, it almost becomes something you're now aware of. Does it make you more vulnerable or more reserved?
It makes me more free. Like you were talking about feeling free before. And that's why I really like a lot of the time when a piece of music I'm working on, like I don't always have the lyric first. And sometimes the music allows like to explore what the right words are and to find the right words. And then when you can find the right words and the right words always sing the best way, that's like really, that feels really good. When I can find like the attitude in like a word or in a phrase, you know, and I can put myself behind it and rock out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Find the release moment in there.
Do you feel like in your writing process, that's the best feeling ever? Because once it's on paper, it's permanent. It's on there. Like, I guess what takes off the pressure off the shoulders. Now it's on paper. Now it's like, it's go time. You can just kind of relax a little bit more in your thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. So sometimes things come on paper for me. Sometimes they do, and a lot of the times it feels like I'm still kind of working them like out of the air, even if they're on paper. And then I'll end up singing the song later, or going, I'm taking a shower or something, and I'm singing it, and I'm like kind of just working it through my body, and the right words, always end up working themselves out in a way. Like a little peculiarity or a phrasing or something will be different when I'm just feeling the words out, and the paper will end up changing. That is actually one of the things that first really drew me to songwriting, was that being a painter and a drawer and making physical art, you could kind of only push each piece so far before the material just got exhausted. And with a song, there's no limits with the material aspect of it. So you can kind of, it stays fluid and it stays free because it doesn't have to exist. It only exists when you make the sound. You can chop it up a billion ways, you know? And so that's actually, I think, why what I love about it is the fact that it's not on paper, you know, that it's free and that it floats around and I can pull it from here and I can feel it out. It ends up on paper, you know, in the end. But a lot of the time I'll be working on a song and I'll discover a new musical moment. I'm like, God, what's the lyric for this? And then I'm just, you know, it's late at night and I'm just blasting the musical section in my little house workspace here and just pacing around, walking around, you know, going to the bathroom, getting some food and just kind of feeling it and ad-libbing and singing it and like trying to let the words come together.
No, I think that's so beautiful. And something I'm kind of picking up on is, like you said, how freeing it is to be an artist that can do something on a canvas, but can also do something in words. And I think you're almost like the Hannah Montana of like musicians, I guess. You've got the best of both worlds. You can splash shit on a canvas, but you can also use words. And I think that's so beautiful because so many people, they don't dive into their creativity to express themselves and they just hold it in for their entire lives. And I think that's a very sad thing. So I love that. I love that you do that.
Oh, for sure. That's right. That's another thing I like about making the art And I feel like the songs that you really want to make feel like they really have to be made, because if you don't get them out of your body, then they'll make you sick. And
Exactly.
and that's funny. That's like you're talking about breaths and big breaths, and something that I experimented with for a little while was actually holotropic breathing, breath work, and like that kind of way of somatically or like releasing tension in the body through these whatever like 3 hour deep breathing exercises. And I think like a lot of songs really feel like that. Like it has a specific space, it has a place somewhere. And I feel that urgency to when you're trying to get a song out and get it together. It's like kind of capture the lightning in the bottle. It does feel like I got to get this out. I need to get this together now, because it's I'll feel so much more relieved afterwards.
Well, I mean, you said sick once again, and obviously that's what prompted this entire conversation right now was the song Love Sick. And this totally random because we're about to jump into some random questions. But before we move on from the song Love Sick, this is in honor of your Instagram post of you in the shower.
Do you find yourself losing track of time? Has zoning out become something more serious? You snap back to reality after a few minutes in the shower to discover whole hours have just disappeared. You may be suffering from love sickness. But don't worry, I'm suffering too.
The moment I step out my door.
If a cold shower does not cure love sick,
Yeah.
what does?
Digging a huge hole.
You're like, listen, so I've given you two options, bitch. It's either a wet shower or a dry hole to climb
Exactly.
in.
Basically, exactly. Yeah. Or dig a ditch, and I don't know, maybe like get kind of stoned and like listen to the Smiths for 3 hours
Dude,
while you
I
do.
love the Smiths. I was just listening to them this morning.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
trippy.
true. That was my like when I was doing a lot, because I garden a lot too. And so yeah, I would love to, especially when I was making big moves in my garden. I would get like a little bit stoned and then like listen to like, Strange Ways like front to back. And then like Queen is Dead and like that, that song like what is it? I Know It's Over. And it's like, Mother, the soil falling over my head. And I'm like gardening and I'm like, yes.
Well, listen, we were just getting ready to jump into some random questions, and this one was at the end. But since we're talking about the Smiths and music, I'm going to start with this one first. Do you by any chance know who Frankie Goes to Hollywood is, the band?
Yeah, I know that band.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when I heard you on YouTube, you were doing like an acoustic set or something. I was immediately like, I paused it not even 30 seconds in, and I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of a voice I could hear on, I think it's called The Power of Love. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
I'm not sure if I do know that song.
Okay, well,
Maybe.
I'm glad you said no because that means you get to do some homework after this and you can see
Yeah,
what you made me think of.
I'll add it to my list.
It's called The Power of Love by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. One of my favorite songs in the world, but I immediately was like, oh my gosh, like he could totally pull off this cover of doing this song. So if you ever take requests, this is it.
Oh, that's a great. I'll definitely look into that. That sounds pretty fun.
Well, and I also read somewhere that you were listening, and this was like in a written interview, where you were listening to Just Like Heaven, the Dinosaur Junior version.
Done some deep homework.
I did. But this is what's so cool about looking you up because Just Like Heaven happens to be one of my favorite songs in the entire world. However, I did not know the original. I knew it by a Charlotte Martin cover on piano. So, giving you more homework today, look up
Okay.
the Charlotte Martin version of Just Like Heaven. It's piano version and it is absolutely stunning.
You got me some good recs today. I'm gonna have some really nice, wonderful.
I couldn't segue into those any better because we started to talking about the Smiths and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm geeking out.
Oh
But
yeah.
moving on with some random questions. I only have two left. I was going to save the music ones for last, but we already
Sure.
got them out of the way. Something I wanted to ask you real quick. I read how you like to set the mood at home when you listen to a vinyl. So this prompted me to ask you, when listening to Leo, when listening to yourself, you get the final master of a song you recorded, it's done, it's before you put it out into the world. How do you set the mood to listen to it? Listen to yourself, basically.
That's tough. Are you talking about the first listening or the repeat listenings?
Well, I guess for both. I think I read in an interview where you like to set the mood for a good vinyl listening. And so that prompted me to ask you, like, what does he set the mood to listen to himself? Kind of narcissistic to ask, but hey.
No. That's when I'm getting back something that I've sent out for work, like whether it's a mastering or something, if it's that, like I haven't heard it, sometimes I'm just in my car in my space. I'm almost just kind of holding my breath to be honest, because like I want to make sure that the experience is still happening, you know? Like I've gotten so nervous or paranoid in the past about the magic sparkle of something kind of being lost, you know? And so if I'm like, oh shit, are we gonna pull this off? Like I'm listening to a song, I'm like, is this mood gonna, is it gonna, I'm kind of holding my breath, like, reminds me of when I used to teach a middle school arts class called sci-fi and fantasy prop making. Something that we talked about was always the suspension of disbelief in movies and in sci-fi. And like you're watching and it's like, what are all the elements coming together in this thing to suspend the idea of disbelief, basically to keep me in a world that's being created. And I feel like songs are really like that for me. And so it's got to be really dialed in terms of if I feel like something takes me out of that experience of the world of the song, that's why I'm kind of holding my breath the first time I listen to things. It's hard for me to get romantic when I'm listening to my own music for the first time. When I'm listening on repeats, what I really do is I actually do a lot of physical things when I listen to my songs. I like to run, I like to garden, I like to really do things in my body. I think that's why I love songwriting, but that's why I don't think that, I mean, I wouldn't be a folk artist because other things like rhythm is just really important to me and those other kinds of feelings. And so being able to feel something in my body is like really important, which makes sense. We talk about breathing, we talk about physical intimacy, we talk about, all of these, shame, all of these things are really like physical experiences. So I go move around a lot when I listen to myself. I want to be able to dance. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to dig a hole. Yeah.
No, that's amazing because I've talked about this on earlier episodes, like I think maybe just a few weeks into the show, about how I listen to even ballads very differently than most people. A lot of people like to really set the mood to be very calm and relaxing. I can't do that. I have to be able to kind of like move and groove to a song that maybe your average person wouldn't want to
Yeah.
groove to. But listen, I'm above average. I am not just average. So I do things a little bit differently.
Move plus.
Exactly. The last random question before we talk a little bit more music, and this one's meant to catch you a little bit off guard, but you are going to also have to think a little bit quick on your toes to see what creative juices you've got going on in your mind in this moment. In honor of this sexy thrust you gave with a mic stand at a show that I came across on social media, if you wrote a song about a love affair between you and the mic, what would you call it?
Oh, that's good. Shock therapy, maybe.
Perfect.
The secret line. I don't know.
Perfect. Well, if you ever write a song about you thrusting the mic stand, you don't have to worry about giving me credit for it.
Sounds good. No. You'll definitely get a mention in there.
Amazing. Well, we couldn't talk about music without talking about Vampire because I am stupidly obsessed. I think I saw the first clip of you in that FX makeup and I was like, need to have this guy on the show yesterday. Leo, are you by any chance old enough to know who Buffy the Vampire Slayer is?
Yeah, I love Buffy. I haven't watched as much of this series as I would have liked to. I maybe got through the first season and a little more. I've seen the movie a handful of times, but I'm a huge vampire media freak. I've seen a lot of vampire stuff. I'm really into that.
I love it. I was watching the music video for it and I was like, oh my gosh, talk about like, because this is where I start to geek out when I see
Yeah.
projects, right? Because I never want to look at something and be like, oh my gosh, it's just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I never want to compare it in that way, right? But I love when something is nostalgic just enough to make me think of anything, right?
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
thought that your video was so beautifully clever because it was almost like nostalgic, but I had not seen it before. It made me think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it didn't. So
Um,
beautifully done. I was obsessed with it, by the way.
thanks. Wow, that's great feedback. Thank you. That's awesome. And shout out to Joaquin again, my bud, for pulling off that editing and everything and pulling together all that footage. I really like that. Your point there. I really like talking to things that have happened before. And I also really something that I think why I kind of ended up, I guess, being into pop art or maybe identifying more like that was because then I was in art school and I was into all of these older, like German expressionist painting and all this stuff. And I kept coming up against in art school, everything is like the politics of image and the fact that like all mark making and imagery has basically already been dominated by culture and by like capitalism. And so I was really kind of depressing for me for a second. I was like, oh shit, what do I do? Like everything has already been used up. And no matter what I do, I'm like, I'm talking about something that's already been done and I can't get away from all the baggage that comes with it. And then so I think getting used to that idea and then realizing that I had no choice. No matter what I did, I was going to be playing with language that already exists. And then so just really embracing, like taking that language, taking those things that already exist because it's all dominated anyways, and then trying to denormalize it, make it fresh. You know what I mean? And so I like really like not even consciously like taking from all of these things, and yeah, so definitely I like that it can feel like those things, it can feel familiar, but that it can also feel strange. That's also why I like David Lynch a lot, and like, you know what I mean, it's like it's familiar, but it's also kind of weird.
Well, I mean, not to put any pressure on you, but I think that if there's anyone that can take a language that's already very familiar, something like vampires and something very well known and versed, but can make it feel like it's never been done before, Leo, I've got to tell you, it's you. And it's funny because I even opened up with this as a joke, but I just don't know anyone that can, again, pull off something like a wedding dress, a suit. And it's like, to think that you're the first person to ever put on a wedding dress would be crazy to say, right? But it's the fact that you did it your way, and there is no other way than Leo's way. And I think that's such a beautiful, empowering message to put out there. You can still take these languages that have been done before that are familiar, but this is how you're going to do them different because they're Leo's.
Thanks. That's great. That's great feedback. And all of those things and all of that role playing too, like you're talking about. It's like, where do I emotionally fit into this experience? Like, where's my space in this experience? Like, where does it speak to me? Who am I talking to right now when I'm wearing this dress and I'm upset? And I'm saying like, who am I speaking to right now? Who am I talking to? Is it my dad? Is it, who is it?
No, it's so dark, but it's so vulnerable and so captivating because it's one of those things where, in my opinion, I think what you're doing, Leo, is one of those projects that don't even need any explanation. The open to interpretation is so beautifully done well on its own. So I love it so much. I'm just such a down bitch for everything you're doing, for real.
Thank you.
Of course. And, since we're already kind of talking about looks and the physicality parts of expression, something that really stood out to me, and I guess since I already like fed your ego about looking good in a dress and a suit, et cetera, we have to add purple lipstick to that count, okay? You pulled it off so well. So, in honor of the purple lipstick in the music video for Vampire, I'm going to give you a supernatural being, and I want you to tell me what color lipstick you would do in that video. Are you ready?
I think I understand the prompt, but yeah.
All right, let's do it. The first one I've got is Ghost.
It would be like a moonlight platinum with a little bit of a blue tint in there.
Beautiful. A witch.
Man, I don't want to be too like standard. Maybe a kind of green, but it would have to be maybe even like a little bit either like a wart green or like more of a mustard green. One of those. It either go more like warty, like deep pumpkin stem, or it would go more mustard.
Okay, first of all, I'm tripping the fuck out because something I wrote on my notes when I wrote witch, if I were to pick something, I wouldn't want it to be too obvious and standard. So I would go with either a yellow, mustard yellow for the candles in Practical Magic. How fucking weird is that?
Wow, man, that's not can't just be a coincidence.
No, that is so trippy. But let's move on to some other ones. I've got just a few more. The next one I have is was ogre.
Ogre, that's a good one. Like a purplish brown, like a deep eggplant.
Like, I'm definitely going to screenshot this so that I can timestamp it for you because it's weird. Because my color for that one, mine was brown and crusty.
Oh my God, perfect.
I've got two more for you. The next one I have is a mermaid. What would you do for a mermaid? What lipstick color?
I mean, there's a lot of. I feel like that option's almost obvious. Jeez, let me think about it for a sec.
I wrote the color red to attract someone with blue eyes like Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid.
I did. So you're going, yeah, you're more of a like retro romantic mermaid. I would probably go also like a flaky, shiny turquoise, probably. I love the mermaids that are a little more biomorphic, like that are, you know what I mean? That are like very much like of the sea.
Beautiful. That's too perfect. The last one I have for you, it's my favorite one because I couldn't figure out what they were called. So I had to do some stupid Googling to figure out what the word was. But gargoyle, what would you do for a themed gargoyle lipstick?
I do like a lumpy gray that has a sheen over it. But ideally, it'd be a gray with a sheen that also has like raised pebbles in it. You know what I mean?
I literally wrote concrete gray. I love it.
Yeah, there we go.
I love it so much.
Gargoyle does ask for, the stone, the concrete gray.
Amazing. Well, listen, if Mac is listening or anyone wants to do a lip line with Leo, this would be fucking epic. I'm just saying.
Do it, folks.
Well, I definitely had to save your latest for last right now because I looped this song like crazy. I am stupidly obsessed with it. I think it's the best fucking holiday song in the world. I'm obsessed with it. But Leo, I'm gonna let you take over and I want you to tell everyone what's the name of this song title and why.
The damage drop off site, that
Hell
one.
yeah, I am obsessed, dude. You have no idea. I'm obsessed.
There goes the damage drop-off site. It's Christmas trees like morning lights. There goes the damage drop-off site. Its secrets drift away like kites.
That's great. Why is that the title you're asking?
Yeah.
Ah, man, I was thinking about a lot of things. I was thinking about house fires. I was thinking about basically what happens to homes and the places we've lived in when they're destroyed, and what happens to all of the shit that we experience there when they're gone. I also love like the Heathers, like what's your damage, Heather? You know what I mean? And so I love that idea of like damage, something being damaged. What's all of our own damage, and then also damage in regards to like a place. And I just loved how small or big that kind of place could be. I like that could be my own personal damage. It could be the house that I grew up in, which is, maybe it's got some place that got burned by a grease fire. And then what happens to all those memories there? I love the idea of being like a bypasser, like driving by in the neighborhood and you see some burned down house and you're like, geez, I wonder what happened there. An idea, I guess, I wonder what kind of experiences happened there. I wonder, what special events happened and what was lost there. And then I really love the idea that like the entire earth could be that place, a big junkyard for all of our shit, basically, physically and emotionally. And I love the idea in damage drop off site. You as a bystander could be cruising by a house and be like, geez, what happened there? Or in a spaceship cruising by Earth and being like, geez, look at that place. What happened there? So I love that. It's just being a place where all of our physical and emotional shit was left behind. And the mystery of like, oh, I wonder what damage happened there.
No, the mystery of it is so beautifully, and I am so in love with that song. I'm also really obsessed with the cover art for it because it really did inspire. I'll talk about that in 2 seconds, but let me ask you this real quick. The house that's in that cover art, real quick, what house is that?
That's a house that I crafted through many hours and iterations using an AI app. And so I took like a lot of some of my favorite references. There's like a real specific feeling I wanted to have as a dollhouse. And I was thinking of actually a dollhouse in Peter Murphy, the singer Bauhaus. I was thinking of a dollhouse that was in a Peter Murphy song called Strange Kind of Love. And there's this really pretty, beautifully lit dollhouse with a little boy looking inside of it. And I just loved like the kind of whimsy and the innocence and lightness of that dollhouse. And I wanted it to be a specific kind of house. I wanted it to be a dollhouse. I wanted it to feel a certain way. I wanted it to, the structure, I wanted it to be like kind of classically American and suburban, a little bit like American Gothic, because I'm an American and I'm also Gothic. And a lot of that landscape, is like very Americana. And so getting that house took a lot of trial and error work.
Well, I have to tell you, this is where I'm geeking out because I've openly talked about this on episodes before. I don't ever just agree to doing episodes with artists just to have an episode out, right? I would much rather do a solo episode and not have a lineup of artists if I'm not connecting with them. When I saw the cover art to this, just the cover art alone, I had not listened to the song yet. It really made me think of the times I would play pretend to
Mm.
almost kind of like what I wish my childhood could have been like for the holidays. And cover art usually doesn't really do it for me. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But in most cases, it's either just an artist posing, right?
Yeah.
It's just cover art. This one, for some reason, with the Christmas lights, with the dollhouse, it made me think, oh my gosh, of all the times I would have wanted to just play pretend as a
Mm.
child to make my holidays that maybe weren't so magical a little bit more magical. So I went into listening to your song with this idea of how moved I was by just the cover art. For some reason, the house was so symbolic for me, you know?
It's very symbolic.
Yeah, and I think that's something everyone in whatever part of their lives they can relate to. There's always something that we all fantasize about,
Yeah.
something of our lives that could have been a little bit better. But then, of course, you have to get to a place where you're like, you know what, burn that shit down. It didn't work out that way for me. This is just not how it played out, and that's okay. So I loved it. I was obsessed with the cover art.
That's so great to hear. Wow. And that, yeah, all those ideas are really there. That's awesome.
No, for sure. Obviously, then I went down the deep dive on the song and then the video, which literally my last question on here was, who's the lady with the hair rollers in the video? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So cool. So cool that it was your mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she going to be involved in any other future projects?
She's always involved somehow. She's always been my most supportive advocate. Even when I was, really young, getting canvases and stuff, we'd be, I have a big canvas and we tie it to the top of her car and we'd be going like 10 miles an hour in the slow lane off of the freeway. And I'd be reaching through the window trying to hold the bars of the canvas down onto the car. And so, yeah, she's always involved behind the scenes somehow, even if it's just like, she's been very nice, like provided some food one of the days of the shoot or something. And she did actually do the makeup for me, my look as her. I thought that was just should like be part of it, part of the process, her kind of passing that on to me and all the metaphor there too, with just like the way that, experiences, trauma, familially, like just things get passed down from generation to generation. That ritualistically was also like a part of that. And yeah, I love your thoughts on the cover too. I just had a really just strong, like felt like it was the idea of being held bondage by the Christmas lights and almost being forced to watch this house burn and being, kind of giving up.
No,
All that.
it's so true. It's almost kind of like that confrontation that sometimes life doesn't really give you a choice but to confront some of these things. That was that feeling for me, dude. I was like looking at the cover art going like, whoa, like why did my mind go there? Like the dissecting of why did it go there? It was just genius, absolutely genius.
Oh wow, that's so cool. And that's so great to hear. Thank you.
Of course, and totally random. We know that the rollers, was your mom. Were the slippers in the video too? Her doing the footwork, was that her too?
It's her too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
My brothers and I all joke because we watching the video and we're like, oh, that's so mom. A little foot going like that.
Something I'm gathering here that I didn't know going into this was how intimate this project was. I sometimes feel like the intimacy and vulnerability that goes into a project is what makes a project so good. Do you feel that way with this one?
You know, that's a good question. I think a lot of this stuff can come from limitations, like the fact that, okay, I maybe only have like a couple $1,000s, if that, to try and make this video work. What can you pull together your loved ones, you pull together your friends, you see how much you can do yourself and you run up against limitations. And just as a result of just needing to do things small like that, things become more intimate. And it can be frustrating in some ways because you're like, oh man, I want to have this shot look so like money, you know what I mean? But then you get things that happen as a result of trying to make things happen without that much. and with just an intimate group of people. I mean, that's what like punk is. That's what we love about that stuff, is it comes from a place of not having everything, but still needing to get that energy across. And so that's why when I made this one, obviously like I have hopes and stuff for the project and I want to have the material reach more folks, if anything, just so I can get the opportunity to make more stuff. But I think that was the most, I guess, powerful thing about this video was shooting that scene, the wedding scene, in the kitchen, and just there with three very close people and creating experience and being vulnerable before three close people in a way that I really would be very afraid to be in most other situations and around these people and anyone close, really, that kind. And after that experience and what we created, just kind of with the whole video, it made me feel that really anything else, like no matter what happens with the video or not, it doesn't matter, because just the fact that we create that energy there, like that was it. That was the thing that happened. Nothing else matters. And if there's a feedback to it, then that's great. But it already exists because it happened and we made it happen there. And so that, I think that is kind of what I've come to realize, especially, feeling anxious about like wanting to make a life as an artist and stuff. And like, oh, I want my art to be able to support me and then some, and I want to be able to make more stuff. And as long as we could find a way to make that magic happen, basically, nothing else really mattered. And on any other scale, as long as we're getting that energy across, then it's alive.
Well, it's definitely going to happen to you because this is what I have to say about budgets, okay? First of all, Leo, fuck the budgets because you cannot put a price tag on heart, soul, and it factor. You have all three. Everything else is just a bonus. So it's all going to pan out for you. I already know it. I can feel it. You're so artistically gifted in not just music, but in writing, art, fonts, style. If you really think about it, you are like a cluster of possibilities. So take that for what it is. I mean, I'm, just a fucking no one just here on a screen, but you know what I mean?
Come on, that's all your
Well, no, of course. Well, lastly, Leo, tell everyone where they can stream this music, where they can find you on socials, and we'll definitely be in touch. And I cannot wait for everyone to get to know you just a little bit more. And hopefully that song about the mic and, the love affair comes out.
Yeah. It's a shame that what's it called? Electric Feel. Is that the MGMT song?
Yes.
That one's already taken, unfortunately. That would be the title. But oh yeah, you can find me, you can find the song everywhere. You can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Apple, you can find it on YouTube with the video, and you could even find it probably on Amazon Music. Although I don't know how many people, you can ask Alexa to play Damage Drop Off Site by Leo Lauren, and she may be able to do that for you. And you can find me on TikTok while it still lasts, trying to make my small mark on the field of nothingness and digital wasteland. And you can find me on Instagram, Leo Lauren _. And you can find me hopefully somewhere in the real world.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for everything, your time, your energy. I'm just so obsessed with everything you're doing. And if you do ever get around to doing the cover of The Power of Love by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, just, let your girlfriend know it's not personal, but that song's going to be for me, okay?
No, there's all kinds of love.
I love it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
No, of course. Well, take care, Leo, and we'll be in touch, okay?
It's great. I'll talk to you later.
Alrighty, bye. Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.